Do you consider yourself a people person? Are you really good at recognizing faces? Or are you like me and a class reunion is an absolute nightmare? Hey, if you want to learn more about this, stay tuned to Mysteries Mysteries. I am MysterE, where we cover all things mysterious in the world of psychology. There is a couple of super interesting disorders out there um, that are related to recognizing faces. And I've taught psychology for a long, long time. And I have taught specifically something called prosopagnosia, also known as face blindness. And I've taught it for like 20 years. And it's a super interesting situation where these individuals with face blindness, they can't recognize any faces. And about 15 or 20 years ago, there was the small group of people that were recognized as individuals with face blindness, and they had gone through life thinking that they just weren't a good people person. They were like, "Oh my God, I just don't understand people. I don't get people." And it was because they didn't have the ability to recognize faces. Well, we have a specific location in our right temporal lobe. Okay, so right around this area is where our right temporal lobe is. Okay. And it's an area that's called the fusiform face area. And individuals with face blindness, they have much, much lower neural networks that are happening in that area. So a lot less neural activity that's occurring. And these individuals, they can't recognize faces no matter what. So I'll give you a couple of crazy examples. One individual with face blindness was in the grocery store, and they were walking down the grocery store aisle. And this was a 50-year-old woman, and she had an 18-year-old daughter, and she didn't know her daughter was at the grocery store at that time. She walked right by her daughter without recognizing her. That's how bad face blindness can be. Another situation, if you don't know Dr. Oliver Sacks, Dr. Oliver Sacks recently passed in the last couple years, and he was one of the foremost authorities on neuroscience. A brilliant, brilliant man. And not only was he one of the first to discover face blindness, but he also had it. And he tells a story that if he doesn't know he's looking in a mirror, he'll actually say hello or excuse me to the mirror. So he can't even recognize his faces. It is super debilitating. And these individuals have no idea that they have it, no clue whatsoever, unless they are ultimately diagnosed or unless, like me, they teach the subject or have the subject taught to them. I'll give you an idea of what it's like. And scientists that study this talk a lot about this. If you turn famous people's faces upside down and you try to recognize those faces, you'll have a really difficult time. You still might be able to recognize them, but you're going to have to recognize them piece by piece by piece. So people with face blindness, in psychology, there's sensation and there's perception. Sensation is information comes in through our senses, in this case, our eyes. We go through our ears, our tongue, our nose, our skin, whatever. And then it travels to our brain, and our brain organizes that information and interprets it. The organization and interpretation part takes place in our brain, okay? But we have to have this sensory information come in. Now, when we have a catalog of faces, a huge catalog of faces, what we have developed is the ability to just look at a face and know who that is instantly. So we use something called top-down perception, right? Or top-down processing, where we're perceiving the face instantaneously. We recognize that face right away. So I can look at my producer on the screen right now, and I just look at him and I know that it's Bear Wade. You know, I know instantly, right? But people with prosopagnosia or face blindness, when they look at a face, they have to break it down. They look at the ears. They look at the contour of the jaw. They look at the lips. they look at the eyes, they look at skin color, and they look at hair. And this is when I first realized that I had a difficult time recognizing faces. I never really considered it before, but holy cow. And this is what it's like. So I had this student, her name, I'll just call her Anna. And Anna always wore her hair down. And like, I knew Anna from being in my AP psychology class, and I recognized her. And then one day we had a study hall in my class, and she had her hair worn up. And she was sitting in my class, and I was looking at her. I'm like, I know I'm supposed to know who you are. I cannot tell. And she looked at me, and this is a person I should have known. This was 3 months into the year. I memorized my student's name in the first day. I should do a podcast on that. I should have recognized her. And she looked at me. She goes, Mr. Eastman, it's Anna. I'm like, are you doing something different with your hair? And she's, yeah, I always wear it down, and I'm wearing it up today. She looked like a completely different person to me. And from that point forward, I was so much more aware that any girls with like brown hair, longer brown hair, I actually had a really difficult time recognizing. And I also realized that when they change their hairstyle, they look like a different person to me. Now, people that have unique looks to me, it's super easy. Very easy for me to recognize them. So I don't have face blindness. I recognize myself in the mirror. I recognize my wife. I recognize my son. Absolutely no problem. I don't have face blindness. But I got a hint into the world of face blindness by these types of experiences where I couldn't recognize this student that I had known for 3 months. And it was absolutely frightening. Now, unfortunately, this is the latest that has occurred. As you get older, your reunions, they go from the teens into the 20s and ultimately into the 30s. Your 30-year reunion, you don't look like you did 30 years ago. You also go to funerals, and funerals suck to begin with. But funerals, when you're panicked, where you're going to see people that you haven't seen for 20 years, and like me, you're not going to recognize them, is horrific. And I go to these funerals, I go to these class reunions, and people recognize me right away, and I don't recognize them. I have no idea. And I thought it was because I was a jerk. Right? Like, my God, how do I not remember you? We had 3 classes together. I can name the classes we were in. We were in homeroom together for 6 years in a row. I don't know who you are. But then the second they say their name, I know exactly who they are. I know our story. I know what we've done together. I know all these things. And I realized that, oh my gosh, I got partial face blindness. This is crazy. And it's terrifying. And it's terrifying for me on those special occasions. But for people with face blindness, it's terrifying for them every day. Every day they walk into work, they're walking into work, and it's new people. And if there's no context, they don't know who they are. They have no idea. And it's no fault of their own. It's not that they don't pay attention. It's that their area, the fusiform face area, just doesn't work. And it's a fascinating tale. So if you just are listening to this and all of a sudden you realized, holy crap, I might have this, please share it with us. Send us an email, contact us, let us know, tell us your story. We just did one on cults, and I had several people contact me about their experience with cults. And although I don't love to hear that a person is in a cult, I love hearing from you and hearing your stories that we're touching and we're making a difference with you. So let us know. Now, for people that have face blindness, for every person that has face blindness, which is fairly rare, there's an even rarer condition called super recognizers. The average person remembers 20% of the faces that they see. That could be people that they see crossing the street every day. That could be people in their school, in their business, that sort of thing. People in general will recognize about 20% of the faces they see. Super recognizers, they will recognize 80% of the people that they see. So now we're not talking about just contextually. If I go to the same restaurant every day and there's a server that's there, I'm going to recognize that server. But super recognizers, they could go to a restaurant one day and a year and a half later be walking down the street and say, "Oh my gosh, you were my server at that restaurant." And then that person will say, "You are a total stalker. Leave me alone." So super recognizers, they have to be really careful because they, once again, their world, the perception of their world is very different from the perception of others. And as awkward as it is for people with face blindness to not know and not recognize people's faces, it's equally awkward for people that are super recognizers to say, "Oh my God, how are you doing? It's good to see you again." And that person has no recollection of who you are because we met at a cocktail party 17 years ago at a friend who I haven't talked to in 16 and a half years, right? And this person, it seems to them, and this is that perception piece, when they see them, they look so familiar to them that they do have this much, much more powerful emotional connection to them. And this is how that works. It is so crazy. The brain is such a trip. Here we go. You have the fusiform face area, which is right here, right temporal lobe. Okay. You have the hippocampus, which is our center for memory and emotion, which is right in the middle of our brain. And then you have the occipital lobe, which is for vision, right? These are all the occipital and temporal are lobes of the cerebral cortex. The hippocampus is our center for memory and emotion that's connected to the limbic system, right? People that are super recognizers, they have super powerful connections between the fusiform face, their occipital gyrus, it's called, and the hippocampus. So they have an incredible memory and they have emotion that's tied to that memory because emotion does help with memory. And then they have visual acuity. And you have those three things that are all connected together that can make these acquaintances, these brief run-ins, be so memorable for our super recognizers. So once again, for every person with face blindness we have the even rarer condition of super recognizers. And what we have is this ability now to study these super recognizers and study these people with face blindness and start to learn more and more about our ability to recognize faces, to see faces, to absorb faces, to work on our working memory, all sorts of different things because of these case studies of these amazing, amazing people. So I hope you found this podcast interesting. I absolutely love these topics, this one in particular, because it does impact me even slightly. Thank you so much for tuning in. I want to thank our producer and director, Bear Wade, for everything that he does for us and his company, Unify Agency. He is getting rolling. He's doing more and more podcasts. So if you're interested in becoming an influencer or doing podcasts and trying to just invoke knowledge and happiness onto the interwebs, go ahead and contact him. He is phenomenal. Follow us any place you can see podcasts. Make sure you check us out: YouTube Reels, Snapchat, Instas, TikTok, whatever else. Check us out. We love you. Thank you so much for tuning into us. You guys have a great day. See ya.